I've travelled a great deal and was brought up in lots of different countries, and I often thought to myself, I'm going to write a really interesting film about America or Sweden or the Philippines or, places I've been, and in the end I tend to write about W11.
The Cartesian world has a lot of familiarities, but it's always breaking new ground as well. There are always characters that you recognise and gags that you recognise, because like all good writers, a lot of it's autobiographical or semi-autobiographical.
The film was originally set in Berwick, up in Scotland, where Richard had been as a sort of 17-year-old, and that's where a lot of his recollections come from.
I had Scotland in mind when I wrote the film. It turns out there aren't as many houses by the sea of the kind that I wanted. When you go north, the houses by the sea tend to be, one, not by the sea, because they built them back because it was too cold, and two, if they are by the sea, they tend to look like castles. Cornwall turned out to have all the qualities, both socially and visually, that I wanted from the house and the world, for real.
Cornwall is down the south of England. It feels a little bit sunnier, a little bit more relaxed than London, more countryside, more beaches and all this sort of stuff. That's where we were filming, and it was just like a joy from start to finish. He was very happy going to work every day.
The place does have a real magic, and this house that we're in has a magic to it, a feeling that it's a place where you could be happy. And I think that is infecting people a little bit, and I think that everyone is happy and is getting into a feeling that we're in a real place where a family might live and have real experiences.
They live in this really, terribly beautiful house. It's a little bit ramshackle on the inside, but it's kind of a little bit pink, and it looks out over the sea.
It's got a grandeur about it, but it's really only sort of skin deep. We gave it kind of a more rambling garden and sort of grew the grass longer and painted it a pink colour, so it kind of sat back into the landscape a little bit more. Inside it's actually quite a real and kind of rambling world, which is sort of quite a nice image for the family, I think.
It's got such a great lived-in feeling, which you could never get if you tried to recreate it or build it on a stage.
You want to just them to be able to live in it and feel that it's theirs, so they know where they're going rather than a set. They can pick up things. They've got books they like. There's records in the dad's study. Mum knows where everything is. Kit Kat's got a few things to play with, so you feel they've got a life in it.
The fact that we're shooting a film on a lawn overlooking a beach, overlooking the sea in Cornwall, and it turns out to be a record-breaking summer, kind of played into our hands. People rub along incredibly well together, and they treat each other with kindness and care.
I got a text from one of the actors saying it had been perfect paradise and sheer hell, because it was this strange thing we've had often here, which is the situation you're in and the things that you're portraying are things you would dearly love, but unfortunately you're making a film about them rather than actually experiencing them.
I love being on location because it really does bring you together, and this has been idyllic. It's allowed us to become close quite quickly because we are just hanging out on the beach together all day. Couldn't have asked for a better place to be a family.
There's a big contrast, I suppose, between the joy of Cornwall and then the reality of filming in London.
The scene in Don Le Noir, which is ironic because it's in pitch darkness and therefore should have been the easiest scene in the film to make, has turned out, because it's odd, to be one of the trickiest scenes. We found it very hard to work out how to film it because I thought you should be able in the film to just get a glimmer of the actors.
So, girls, be honest, who is more beautiful?
Oh, I am.
Yeah, she is.
Excellent.
First time we tried to shoot it, we shot it in very, very, very low light. But the very low light was completely ruined the scene because the actors could see each other. So consequently, they spoke to each other and looked as though they could see each other. So we then did it again, but without hope of the lines working properly. And then we did a whole recording session in very low light to try and get the atmosphere right. And then we did a recording session in no light once they knew their lines. So we sort of did it 4 times, and it's turned out okay.
It's utter blackness. You never really experience total darkness. Generally, there's always something in your eyes adjust, but your eyes don't adjust. It's just, there's nothing there.
Oh, something just touched my elbow.
that wasn't me.
Oh no, well that just makes it worse. It's actually terrifying. I found it terrifying. So I kind of tried to bring some of that into the scene for my character, that she's a little thrown, you know, and not very comfortable and not very secure about the whole scenario. So he was like a kind of a rock, you know, a beacon for her.
Tim and Mary meet a number of times because of the time travel, but one of their big meetings is at a Kate Moss exhibition.
Sorry.
Hi.
Hi.
I love Kate Moss, and any excuse to have very large photographs of her in a film of mine is one I would leap on. We're lucky to have all these fantastic Testino photos that are in fact going around the world at the moment in an exhibition, and we're just borrowing them for a couple of days.
On paper, that was near on an impossible task to kind of create, but again, we've been incredibly lucky that Testino and his team of people who set up all his exhibitions, they joined forces with us and supplied us with the artwork for the Kate Moss exhibition, and then I built a pretty sizable exhibition because it needed to feel like it was an international London exhibition on a kind of an international scale, which again was a lovely, lovely opportunity, and great to have these beautifully printed photographs on that scale in a film.
If I had to talk about my favourite works of art of the last 50 years, Testino's pictures of Kate Moss would come very high.
Part of the challenge with the film is to set it in a world which isn't totally a film world.
The movie's shot by a guy called John Gulasarian, quite a funny looking man. He's got a gorgeous big orange beard. I saw this movie like crazy. Absolutely loved it. Loved its atmosphere. Very low budget, gorgeous American movie. And when we were talking about who should shoot the movie, I kept saying, oh, you know, I'd like it to look like crazy. We should find someone who can do that. And then finally someone, as they do, said, well, you know, you could get the guy who actually shot like crazy. It was lovely that John was seeing Cornwall for the first time, that he, you know, loved London but never been allowed to shoot. If you get an English cameraman, they've shot in Soho a lot of times, whereas John was delighted by the stuff that he was doing for the first time. It's got, I hope, a lovely informal feel. I don't think there's a single tracking shot. I don't think there's a single shot where the camera's on sticks, so it's got a feeling, I hope, of life as it's lived.